what is opposed to Shaheel. So in the past I've made a lot of reviews and videos on different smartphones. Some of them would be the iPhone 11 Pro Max, the OnePlus Nord, the Samsung Galaxy Fold, and I've tried and tested a lot more than that. But the one phone that I've been using as my daily driver is this. This is the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, the 2016 flagship. This specific variant that I've got right here has an Exynos 8890, 4GB of RAM and 32GB of internal memory. But there are other variants which also has 64 and 128GB of internal storage, but you can also use an SD card to expand the storage of this device up to 256GB. And I'm using a 128GB SD card in this phone, and that is how I've been living with 32GB of internal memory. So, the design. The S7 Edge has a beautiful design, even looking at it now in 2021. The golden finish, well, it's usually not my taste, but it's not that bad finish at all. If you're using this phone without a case, then yeah, this is a pretty thin and light phone, but there's not much weight or bulk to it, which is good. But it can be hard to grip this phone because of that slippery Gorilla Glass 4 back, and if you're using this phone, I'd recommend a case or a skin to avoid any kind of slipperiness. On the front, you can see a 5.5-inch AMOLED curved display. Even though it is really small for 2021 standards, it is okay for my 15-year-old hands. This is a high-res screen coming in at 1440 by 2560, so that's a 2.5K display with a pixel density of 534 ppi. And I have to tell you, it's really sharp. But the real issue is that it's just not a good experience for watching movies or TV shows because of that 5.5-inch screen on this device. And not to mention it is 60Hz because again, 2016. And for everything else like daily tasks, it's just okay, even though it's not that fast. Up top there's an earpiece and there's a 5MP selfie shooter near it. The selfie camera is pretty average. We'll talk more about camera quality later in the video. And on the chin there's a fingerprint sensor on the home button, which is really excellent even now. 8 out of 10 times it works in the first try and is working pretty fast, but not super fast. And near to it are the capacitive buttons for the back and recent keys. I don't really use those keys these days for navigation, which I'll talk more about later in the video. On the bottom there's a micro USB port for charging, because again 2016, and there's a speaker grill which can be easily blocked and is not that loud at all. Now on the back side we have a 12MP camera, just one and only one camera, because 2016. And as far as the camera quality goes, there is nothing amazing with this camera, but you can't say that this is a bad camera, just not the best one though. In low light this is not usable. You'll need something like a Gcam mode for at least making low light shots usable, at the very least. But other than that, you can't really tell that if a photo was taken from a really old phone like an S7 Edge. You see, it's the same deal with every smartphone like the S7 Edge. If you give it enough light and if you're under a well-lit situation, it can give you pretty good shots that will not disappoint you. The camera can also record 4K videos at 30 fps. The videos are stable enough with OIS, and the selfie camera can record videos at 1080p. Next to the back camera, you can also see a heart rate sensor and a flash, both of which I don't use much. The same deal goes to the selfie camera as the rear camera, only that it's much worse in every aspect possible. To start with, the selfies are not that detailed. And even if you're in a bit of a dimly lit situation, the selfies are just plain bad, and the noise is still very much visible in all the selfies taken in even in a bit of low light. But again, 2016 though. But where it has a major fall is the performance. Apps have gotten so powerful that Exynos 8890 plus 4GB of RAM combo just won't be able to cut it anymore. You can really see this using a phone like this. Apps and general tasks take a lot of time to load and you could sometimes get really frustrating. But I get it, it's an old piece of hardware and it has its own limitations, but it is what it is. But what really sucks is the battery life. I can only get around 3.5 hours of screen on time with always on display and 1440p resolution all turned on without power saving, and that is kind of bad to begin with. And just in case we wonder why, that is because of the custom ROM that I'm using on this device that I can at least get this amount of battery life. It is this ROM called the Floyd ROM version 5.0. Essentially, this is a ported version of the Galaxy Note 9's Android 10. So essentially, it's a custom ROM based on Samsung's on One UI 2.5, which is again based on Android 10. And I should point this out. This is one of the best ROMs for the Galaxy S7 Edge, both in terms of performance and optimizations. On one hand, this is really optimized that it has a better than stock ROM battery life and smooth experience, almost like it was made by the OEM for this phone. But on the other hand, we have performance that it still feels somewhat usable. This phone can charge up at 15 watts with fast charging and can also wirelessly charge, but at half the speed. But this is really a convenient feature for topping up slowly overnight. Remember that I mentioned that I don't use these stock navigation keys anymore? And that is because I use the Android 10's navigation gestures, which I really like. But it's still a wonder that not everybody uses it. It is really convenient, especially the back feature, which comes in handy all the time. But I get the learning curve. It's still amazing though. So, here's my verdict on using a 2016 flagship as a daily device. You can try this out if you want, although not recommended, especially in the case you have used any other phone that came out in the recent times. This is gonna get really frustrating for you. Most people won't be able to get over the 5.5 inch screen and the not so smooth performance or even the poor battery life of this device. But although I can confirm that this is still somewhat usable, even now in 2021. That's pretty much it for now. Thanks for watching the video. I didn't upload videos for a long time and I've got some plans right now, so subscribe for more awesome content. And until we meet the next time, goodbye.